It's Ash from Super Videos, back for another one. In this one, we're going to be taking a look at the Here's Negan story from the comics. I'm going to explain the story and go through the basic plotline for non-comic readers who may be interested to know a bit about it. And I'm going to explain how it might be remixed in the TV show version and how they can adapt the full arc in the TV show. So this video is targeted for both comic and non-comic readers, since we're going to be revisiting the Here's Negan arc, but also looking at how it can be translated in the TV show universe. Before we jump into it, if you don't want to know anything about Here's Negan and don't want me to spoil it for you, you may not want to watch this video, because I will talk about the details of Here's Negan, which is most likely going to be brought to the TV universe in one way or another. So with that spoiler warning out of the way, let's jump right into it. Of course, we recently got a confirmation that we will have a bonus episode in Season 10, which will air in early 2021, titled Here's Negan, which explores Negan's backstory and gives us an idea about Negan's past prior to joining the Saviors. That story will most likely be heavily influenced by a standalone comics of the same title, and will tell us who Negan was pre-apocalypse, how he survived early on in the outbreak, and how that experience shaped him as a person and pushed him to become the infamous leader of the Saviors. Looking at the latest teaser trailer for the bonus episodes, we have a shot of a character named Lucille, Negan's first wife. Now in the TV show universe, we got a glimpse of Negan's past and Lucille through Negan's conversation with Father Gabriel during All Out War in Season 8. In that scene, Negan opens up about his wife and tells Gabe about how he mistreated her when she was sick, without actually naming her as Lucille just yet. That scene was an adaptation of the conversation that Rick and Negan had in the comics during the Whisper arc. Here's Negan begins just before the outbreak begins, but that's not where the book starts right away. We actually start Here's Negan with a flash forward scene, which comes from the end of the story. We see Negan sitting next to a bonfire, wrapping a baseball bat with barbed wires, which means we start the story with the birth of Lucille the Bat. And what happens in the flashbacks that comes next is why Negan named his weapon Lucille, and why he is who he is. The flashback takes us to Negan playing ping pong with high school students in his garage. We learn that Negan was a high school gym teacher, and he's always had the unique and colorful character that he's recognized by, both in the comics and in the show. The book is filled with Easter eggs and references to the original comic book, some of which are twisted and dark. For example, one of the students Negan is playing with looks just like Glenn, the man he beat to death with a baseball bat. The story takes a sad turn when Negan's wife Lucille collapses and is taken to the hospital. Negan is seen throughout the first few pages visiting his wife in the hospital bed, who's suffering from cancer. But Negan, being the womanizer that he is, cheats on his wife while his wife is in the hospital bed, barely hanging on to survive. In the bonus episode, we are certainly going to see them remix this introduction, with the writers peeling away the layers of Negan's past that was only teased at in the Gabriel and Negan conversation. Despite Negan's mistreatment of his sick wife, and despite the chaos outside, Negan stays in the hospital until the end. Negan ignores the world slowly falling apart as the zombie virus spreads. When it's all over and his wife is dead, he has to witness Lucille resurrect from the dead as a monster. Negan is unable to put her down, a decision that will haunt him forever. He leaves the hospital room as a shadow of the man he was, lost and broken. As teased in the bonus, the writers will most likely add another layer to the story to give Lucille's final moments a more human touch. Lucille in the show will be wearing a green wig to hide her shaved head as a coping mechanism. Depending on how much this episode will focus on Negan and Lucille's marriage, there is a chance that the first few pages of the Here's Negan book may be expanded upon, and for us to see a more in-depth version of the events described. Moving on with Here's Negan, another Easter egg that happens pretty early on is how they have Negan walking out of the hospital room, confronted by the dead, mimicking Rick being confronted by the dead in issue 1 of the comic book. when he opens the door to the cafeteria that has the message, "Don't open, dead inside." From that point on, Negan repeatedly witnesses the brutal death of any survivor he comes across, the dead ripping them all apart one by one. Throughout these horrific incidents, Negan slowly transforms into the Negan we were introduced to in the comics, both characteristically and physically. Negan finds a leather jacket and a bat, which he will wrap with barbed wires by the end of the arc. After so many losses, Negan decides to avoid other survivors and survive by himself. That is, until he comes across Dwight. Dwight takes Negan to a small camp that him and his wife Sherry are staying at. He introduces him to Sherry and others who would soon become Negan's savior army. This is also where the TV universe is likely to remix the story, giving Dwight's Here's Negan comic arc to none other than Simon, Negan's right-hand man, during All Out War. In Season 8, we learned that in the TV universe, the Saviors existed way before Negan showed up, with a leader far more brutal and ruthless than Negan. We learned that Negan, with Simon's help, overthrew the original leader and took over. As a way to remix the Here's Negan story, we can have the TV version of Here's Negan work in such a way where Simon finds Negan, surviving by himself, and brings him to an already established sanctuary, where he will see firsthand how ruthless their leader is, forcing him to team up with Simon to take over. Much like the seeds that were planted with regards to Negan's wife in the show, the conversation at the end of Season 8 of The Walking Dead's original show, where Negan talks to Simon about the Savior's past, could be seeds planted for this bonus episode. Back to Here's Negan. Negan soon butts heads with some people in Dwight's camp when he witnesses one of them attempting to rape one of the women there. This is where we begin to see where Negan's morals lie. Negan, disgusted with what he's witnessed, brings out the culprit and beats him to death in front of everyone with his bat, not yet wrapped with barbed wires. Negan carries out this execution in front of everyone to witness, showing just how serious he is and just how much law and order matters in a place where law and order is long forgotten. And this, of course, would connect back to the events of Season 8, where we had Negan killing one of his own men for attempting to rape Sasha. Then, Negan gives a speech that parallels the speech he gave Rick and his people in issue 100 of the comic, and also episode 16 of Season 6 of the original TV show. The scene of Negan killing the man matches the scene of him beating Glenn to death with Lucille, which of course in the TV universe was both Glenn and Abraham. This shocking scene can work extremely well if intertwined with the story where Negan overtakes the Saviors, as mentioned before. So what you could have is either Negan beating the leader to death in front of everyone, or his altercation with the leader taking place after. Going back to Here's Negan, after that, Negan wraps barbed wires around his bat and names her Lucille later that night, and officially becomes the leader of the Saviors. In Here's Negan in the comics, Negan's survivors find a factory, which will later be named the Sanctuary, and Negan begins the process of building his savior army. In the comics, Negan's story continues after the end of the comics, in a story called Negan Lives, and will most likely also be adapted in the TV show universe. Now, the biggest question is how much of the Here's Negan story can fit into a 45-minute episode, and whether they will adapt all of that in a single episode. I think that Here's Negan, as far as the bonus episode is concerned, will most likely focus more on Negan and Lucille's past, and Negan's story before he joins the Saviors, and will only tease at him taking over the Saviors, leaving the door open for them to expand on this story in a spin-off after The Walking Dead's final season airs. However, it is possible that they will bring a fraction of this story into the bonus and leave the entire Here's Negan to be explored in a spin-off on its own. That's pretty much everything that I wanted to go over. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to share and smash the like button, subscribe to join our community, and press the bell to be notified when I upload. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video.